Sable Phoenix says, if you want to restrict randomness but still include it, using deck building with cards instead of relying on dice is a great option too. Well, I've thought about it. Just occurred to me that because I've got a different structure for the random element, you could do this with dice, and so I was planning out the probability with dice, but you could also do it with cards. And so I'm thinking a lot more about cards. I'm thinking a lot more about that. So we're going to have to talk about that. Deck building is an interesting way to go because I like that part of Gloomhaven. And we'll eventually do some Gloomhaven, I think, on Dinner and a Board Game on Friday nights. But I wanted to do, I like that. But the issue there is that that's basically your attack. You're basically creating an attack deck, which I think is cool, but that works. You'd have to come up with a way that your deck could adjudicate all circumstances and not just attacks. Because like in Gloomhaven, you've got, okay, I stun you or something like that, or I pin you down, or there are different kinds of things that you can do, which I think is cool, but it only works for attacks. So can you do one that would adjudicate everything? So if you're building out your deck, it would adjudicate everything. Easily adjudicated. However, let's see. So invocation of a feel. So that's really important. This is a tool set to be used to invoke some kind of feel at the particular gaming table, because that's important to me. Because if you're playing, to me, if you're playing in Middle Earth, you need to feel like you're in Middle Earth. If you're playing in Harry Potter world, you need to feel like you're in Harry Potter world. So that's why this is intended to be a general system, but it needs to be able to invoke a particular feeling of the game world at the table. You know, I talk about feeling a lot. If you've been with me, I want to feel it. I want to feel it. So that's really important to me, that even though we're the gamist kind of thing, like for instance, a game that I think has a great feel is Zombicide Black Plague. That's one of the reasons why that's one of my favorite games, because it can get out to the table easily. People who play board games, like this style of board games, but don't necessarily play RPGs, will play Zombicide Black Plague. Zombicide Black Plague is a game in sort of the strict sense that has, adjudications of rules. But man, you feel like you're running from zombies. You feel like you're running from some zombies in that game. I get the medieval feel. I wasn't as into the modern day zombie feel. Zombies aren't necessarily my theme anyway. But I had played the modern Zombicide game like over a weekend or something like that. I'm not sure if I played it once or twice or whatever. But I thought it was cool because I was sitting there playing with a bunch of people. I was like, this isn't exactly my theme. But then when they came out with medieval fantasy zombies, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to buy that. And that game invokes the feel. So to me, that's one of the great successes in a reasonably lightweight game that also invokes a great feel. I mean, that game can stress you out. That game can definitely stress you out. So I want to be able to, in an RPG kind of thing, what's this game world? We're sitting here to play in a particular game world, and we want to invoke a feel. I want the game master to be able to do that. Let's see. I'm not. Dawn Command uses a deck for attacks, yes, but you also use it for defense. So if you attack too high, you can't defend that turn. It also adjudicates other actions. I'm going to think more about this with the cards, because it could be like your ability deck. Because the way I'm going here is that you've got to have that you're rolling or you're drawing, whatever it is. When you're making an action that requires a check, which you should only be checking when something is under pressure. When you are under pressure, you should check. So it wouldn't be your attack deck. It would need to be like your influence deck or your ability deck. Anytime you're trying to affect the world. I'm setting up this so that we've got two different elements to this. What do you need to do when your character is trying to affect the world? Your character is trying to bring about change in the world. And then the other thing is when the world is trying to bring about change on you or is trying to affect you, and you're upset about that, and you don't want that to happen. I mean, if you want it to happen, then no problem. Then the world affects you. But like if somebody's trying to attack you and put a spear through you or is trying to cast an offensive spell on you, that's a highly offensive spell. Man, that spell is offensive. I don't want that. An attack spell on you or something like that. Then you need to be able to resist. So your character needs to have the ability to affect the world. How good are they at affecting the world, and how good are they at preventing the world from affecting them? So you would need that. You would need that deck if you were going to draw. If you were going to do deck building, because there's one way to do it where everybody draws from the same deck, which is, I have not thought much about this, but you could start with that. Everybody draws from the same deck, and that just gives you number. But if you wanted to modify your own deck, so if you wanted to do it, so you have less problem if you're always drawing from the same deck. But if you're actually trying to customize your own deck, that custom deck, you don't need a deck for every different way to do something, every different action you can do. You would want just like your own personal action deck that has been adjusted based on your experience or something like that. But that deck you draw from would need to allow you to adjudicate a social situation. It would need to allow you to adjudicate a combat situation. It would need to allow you to adjudicate maneuvering. So that's more difficult. I have to think about that, because I'm potentially like that too. I thought about that, but like deck building. Now, also, if you do deck building, you also have to be able to build that deck quickly. Because if you want to do a level 10, whatever, like a level 10 character, you need to be able to very quickly build a level 10 deck. Do it like in Malifaux. I played Malifaux at one of the conventions. I think it was in Origins that I played an example Malifaux game. They did have a deck.